Hi, my name is Kyla Hall, and I was the Distinguished Young Woman of Virginia in 2016. The social justice movement surging across the nation have created a spotlight on racial injustice and systemic racism. People of all backgrounds are joining together to ignite change within their communities. But sometimes people who feel drawn to stand alongside and speak up are unsure of how to most effectively support the journey towards racial equity. So let's take a look at how to be a truly supportive ally. Professor Rosabeth Moss Cantor from Harvard's Business School says of allyship, "It takes courage to speak up against complacency and injustice while others remain silent. But that's what leadership is." Black, Indigenous, and people of color need allies, but allyship is not just a title for you to claim. Allies do not self-proclaim to feel like they have done a good deed. A true ally knows that their purpose is to be empathetic in the sense that they will never actually live through the suffering of their Black, Indigenous, and people of color siblings or any marginalized group, but having the capacity and perspective to put themselves in the shoes of those who are oppressed and understand why it is important to demand justice. With the understanding that they will never fully comprehend what it is like to be oppressed for their race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, ability, class, religion, or other marker of marginalized identity, an ally recognizes that the most effective way to aid is by amplifying the voices of oppressed groups, because theirs are the voices that have been silenced for so long. There are many ways to do this, whether it's by using social media platforms to share the trials and stories of BIPOC, or attending protests and utilizing their privilege to stand beside, uplift, and protect those who are fighting for their basic human rights. The point is to ensure that allies are not imposing their voices over the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Even if you haven't been a target of racism or other form of discrimination, you can do your part and duty with your privilege to stand alongside those who are systemically oppressed by actively participating in the work necessary to make change and eradicate injustice in our communities. The voices of those who are oppressed and disenfranchised are often not heard or recognized by those in power. As stated previously, it is vital that allies use their positions of privilege by amplifying the voices of those who are marginalized and discriminated against, by allowing them to share their own truths. It is then the job of those with privilege to make sure that the message is widely broadcast, especially to those who might not recognize the depth of the injustices. It is important to expose true realities to those who are jaded by their own privilege. The first step is self-reflection. Everyone has personal biases, but looking at how your words and actions are inherently shaped and influenced by systemic oppression with an honest eye is how you begin to make change in yourself. This is a hard thing to do, and you will make mistakes, but self-contemplation coupled with empathy will allow you to grow in your allyship and use your voice to educate those around you. An ally should do the following. Do be open to listening. Do be aware of your implicit biases and work to dismantle them. Do your own research to learn more about the history of the struggles in which you are working to change. It is not the job of BIPOC or other marginalized identities to educate you. It's okay if you have questions, and you shouldn't be afraid to ask or inquire, but be sure that you aren't relying on them for everything. Do the inner work to figure out a way to acknowledge how you participate in oppressive systems. Then do the outer work and figure out how to change the oppressive systems. Do use your privilege to amplify, both digitally and in person, historically suppressed voices. Do learn how to listen and accept criticism with grace. Do say something if you see or hear a person being discriminated against, whether they are present in the room or not. You must be actively dismantling behaviors of injustice in all situations. And do the work every day to learn how to be a better ally. An ally should not do the following. Do not expect to be taught or shown. Take it upon yourself to use the tools around you to learn, as most of your questions can likely be answered this way. Do not participate for the gold medal in the Oppression Olympics. You should never compare how your struggle is just as bad as a marginalized person's. Do not behave as though you know best. Do not take credit for the labor of those who are marginalized. Your activism should not be performative or to make you seem like a good person. Do not assume that every member of an underinvested community feels the same way. Marginalized groups are filled with all different types of individuals, and one person's feelings do not speak for everyone. It is important to listen to many voices. Being an ally takes commitment, but remember, having the option of moving on from an issue means that you have privilege in regards to that issue. Those facing oppression and injustice don't have that ability, and allies can help ease their burdens. Change is not going to happen overnight, but it will happen if we commit ourselves to changing internally and within our communities. Daily introspection and dedication to listening, learning, and speaking up will make our world a better and more equitable place.